Okay, let's talk about the syllabus here in this video. You'll find the syllabus on Canvas. You just simply have to click on syllabus, and there it is in all of its glory. So let's talk a little bit about what to expect in the class, uh, how assignments and all that stuff work, and all that. So first and foremost, this is computer applications. It covers two topics for the most part, and that's Excel and Access Database. Now we will be talking about a couple of other things, like how Word, PowerPoint can actually be used with all of those. Like all the Microsoft applications actually are kind of connected together. You can export and import back and forth between all of them. Now for my particular class, we're going to be doing Access Database first, and then moving on to Excel spreadsheets. And the reason we're doing that is because Access is significantly harder, and I would honestly prefer to do the harder part first. Excel is a lot easier than Access. Access, not a lot of people have used it or understand how it works, so it takes a little bit of getting used to. Excel, even some basic people kind of have an idea of, who've never really used it, have a basic idea of how it works, especially if you used any of the other Microsoft applications. Access is a whole different thing altogether, so that's why we do it first. Now, as far as how things are going to go, usually at the beginning of every chapter, we'll have some lectures, which involve here's the software, here's how it works, here's what we're going to be doing, here are some problems you're going to find, that sort of thing. And then, of course, we move on to the actual assignments. And all the assignments are going to come, you'll find them on Canvas. Some of them will be straight from the book. Some will be through a software we have called SAM, which is pretty much included with the class. And all you'll have to do really is just click on a link and it'll take you there. And the rest will be maybe I have some printed out handouts or projects I put together for you outside the book. But it'll work the same either way. Now the SAM projects will grade automatically, whereas the other projects I'll have to grade. That's the major difference between those two. Now once we get through enough, like a chapter or two, we'll end up having our test. So once we finish, let's say, chapter 1 of Access, we'll have our test. Chapter 2 of Access, we'll have a test. Excel, we usually do about 2 chapters before we have a test, and then another couple of chapters, and then we have our final exam. That's usually how it ends up rolling out. Now there are 2 books with this course. One is the Excel book, one is the Access book. Oh, and actually looking at these, I think they changed a little bit, but you can find those on the red shelf here. In theory, let's see, there we go. So I just simply, and I have a whole bunch of these here, but you guys will probably not have all of these here, but Access, for example. I click open and there's the ebook right here. And I can flip through the pages, I can search for a particular page, I can go to a particular area in the book if I need to. It's a little different than the Cengage version I'm used to, but here you go. And of course you can flip through it page by page. Now I would highly recommend that you go to the bookstore and you buy the physical books. It's like $1, $2 or something like that. And they will give you a hard copy of the books. That is honestly the best choice you can make. Go to the bookstore, give them $1, and they'll give you some loose leaf versions of the book. The ebook is nice and all, as you can see. It's got everything in the book. It's just basically just copied here. But if you're trying to do actual work, this can be quite tedious going back and forth. Here and then back to something else and then back to here, especially if you have to copy something. Honestly, it's a lot less trouble just to have a physical book in front of you. Now, if you're going to get one of the books at the bookstore, and I honestly highly recommend it, you'll want to get a binder. But the nice thing about that is you don't have to take every single chapter with you. If we're doing chapter 1 and 2, in class, you can take 1 and 2. You don't have to take the rest of them. So you don't have to take the entire thing. But this is how the book's laid out. If you forget your book, well, it's here on Canvas. You can use that instead. Out. red shelf. Now, and those are ebooks. They're included in the class. You've already paid for them. But if you want the physical copy, they'll charge you $1 or $2. Now, grading scale, you get 90 and up is an A, 80 a B, 70 C, 60 D, and anything below that's an F. Your normal everyday grading scale. I honestly think anything different than that, like those schools that have like a 94 being the lowest A and an 85 being the lowest B, which is, I had to go to a high school like that. It hurts more people than it helps. It doesn't help anybody really. Now, the attendance policy, depending on how you're taking the class, it varies. If you're taking the class, 3 times a week, then that basically means that you get 6 absences. You can miss 2 weeks of class, however you shuffle it. Now, if you're taking it twice a week, then you can miss 4 days of class. That's still 2 weeks. If you're taking it online, you can miss 2 weeks, basically. If you're doing it hybrid, which as of the time of this video is kind of what's going on, then you get absences depending on how it's laid out. Let's see. In a hybrid course, as we're doing currently right now as I'm recording this, how that would work is we're going once a week, let's say on a Tuesday, but there are 2 other absences that are online work, basically. So a hybrid course, you would meet once and then you'd get another absence or 2 for online stuff. That's effectively how that would work. And how I would do that in my class is the physical meeting would be an absence. And then the assignments would be, an absence or 2. Maybe watching a lecture video, doing an assignment. I basically tell you at the beginning of each week what I'm going to use to calculate the absences for the week. And you have to do that before the end of the week. Now, if you miss too many, if you go over that limit, you get cut from the class. It used to be you automatically got an F. Now it's just you get dropped, which means even if you had a perfect 100, if you go over absences, you just disappear. You get cut from the class. Unless you have a really good reason, you might could talk to counselors and get reinstated. It depends. Now, since I'm making this during a pandemic and all that, I might as well mention if you're seriously ill or anything like that. We have the COVID-19 thing going on. But if you were to get sick, basically you would shift to doing this online. I would just take all your attendance online. If there's a test, we'd probably have to do it by Zoom, that sort of thing. If I get sick, then, well, I guess the whole class would be online from that point on, which this class is kind of designed to pivot either way, depending on what we have to do. Now, plagiarism and cheating. Oh, I should also, before we get to that, tardies. If you're coming to a physical class, being late is a tardy. 3 tardies is an absence. So if you're coming 3 times a week or 2 times a week, it's very possible you could end up getting booted from the class just from coming in late. No one likes it when people come in late because it's, have to re-explain directions, have to recheck the roll. There's a bunch of annoying things involved in that. So if you're coming to a physical class, try to make sure you make it there on time. Now, plagiarism and cheating. This class is going to be done mostly on computers. All the work we're doing is on a computer. So basically what you're going to have to do is, do your work. Now, the way it's designed, if you do all the work in the class, the assignments, and you've done them, the test is incredibly easy because basically it's going to ask you all the questions from the stuff we've been doing in class. If you turn in work that's not yours, all these Microsoft applications have ways to figure out if it's somebody else's file, how much work you've done. There's a bunch of little things embedded in it. If you turn in something that's not yours and I find out, you will get a 0. If someone else gave it to you and they're in my class, they will also get a 0. The first time. If that happens again, you're basically just failed the class and you're booted out. Then I have to give your name to the dean, and I don't really know what happens after that because it's never made it that far. So basically, don't cheat. In fact, you'll just end up shooting yourself in the foot if you do. If you're copying someone else's files, and even if I don't notice it, more than likely you're going to bomb the test because most of the tests are all application. So if you didn't do the assignments, how are you going to do it on the test? And that's one of the surefire ways for me to know that you didn't do the work. If you did all the assignments perfectly and you can't answer a single question on the test, I might look a lot closer at those assignments. But basically, don't cheat. That's the gist of it. You'll do yourself better doing it yourself. Statement of authority: if you act up or get disruptive or disrespectful or have any major issues that disrupts class, you can be booted. I never had to boot anybody, and hopefully that never happens. The ADA statement: if by chance you have any issues, disabilities, or anything, you can talk to the disability department, and they have extra services like you can take a test at a separate area, quiet area alone. You can have a little bit longer, depending on your disability, to take said test. There are also tutoring services, and that's available to everybody, not just people with disabilities. We have a tutor who can tutor just about everything from science to math. We have a English writing center that can help you with any English paper you're working on. So don't be afraid to go and ask for help if you need it. Now, course outline, basically what this course is going to cover. Of course, first we're going to cover Access. And I will mention Word and some PowerPoint stuff in relation. So you will see a little bit of that, but we're not actually going to be doing anything in those applications for the most part. Then once we finish a chapter or two of Access, we're moving on to Excel. For those of you who've had concepts, the first initial part of that will be a review, but we're going to go faster and farther in Excel than we did before. My information: I am Scott Munger. My office is room 220, and my office number, along with my email address, is posted right here in the syllabus. Honestly, the easiest way to get in touch with me, though, is either through the inbox on Canvas. That's the easiest way, because it just dings right to my phone, and I can usually respond pretty quickly. Or email, which also goes to my phone, and I can see that I got an email. If you call my office number, then more than likely you'll call it, and I won't see that message until the next day or until office hours, which, depending on the semester, I can have anywhere from like 9, 10 plus classes. Uh, so, I'll be in my office during office hours, but that's it. And that might be in the afternoon. So it might be a while before I can get back to you if you use the phone. So these two other methods here would honestly be the best way to go. Of course, the books are included in the course, and you should see those on the shelf on the left. This is kind of a rough draft of how the tests roll. We have, of course, Access tests. We have an Excel test and a final exam, which will be mostly Excel, but there will be terms from Access. Basically, the final exam will be an Excel test. Now, notice I say possibly a fourth. We honestly rarely have enough time for that, so it depends. But for right now, we'll have definitely the 3, the final exam, and then the in-class work, which you'll be working on. Now, as far as makeup tests go, there aren't any. If you miss an exam, you get a 0. Now, if you're physically taking the class and you let me know ahead of time that you're going to miss exam day, I might let you take it early. But if you just don't show up on exam day, then it is a 0. Now, instead of a makeup test policy, which I have tried in the past, and it just got so tedious scheduling and making extra tests, and people still not coming, and some people deliberately missing so they just have longer to study, that I just found it was just easier just to do what's called a drop test. So basic what that means is your final exam can count twice and replace your lowest test grade. So if, the first test I bombed and got a 30 on for whatever reason, or I just didn't make it and I got a 0. I did well on all the other tests. The final exam I got a 90. Then this would count as a 90, and so would this first test. It'll replace that grade. Now, I often get asked, what if my final exam's the lowest test grade? Well, then it counts once instead of twice. So it doesn't hurt you quite as much. But honestly, if you did okay on all these tests here, you'll probably do okay in the final exam. All right, that's roughly the gist of it. If you have any questions, you can, you know, leave messages to me below. Uh, if not, then I guess I'll either see you in class or online.